Hi, I'm Helena. I'm one of the co-curators of DRI Cultures, and I'm really pleased to say that this year we have a talk on science, technology and gender, and we've got some fantastic speakers with us today. We have London Biohackspace. Woo! Then we've got Gail Chester from the Feminist Library and from Breaking the Frame over there. Then we have Chutli Tan, who's a science artist. And last but not least, we've got Dami from Blackgirltech. Okay, so I really love sort of science and technology, and often it's quite a male-dominated field, but there are tons of women who are really interested in it too, and there are tons of scientists who are really interested in doing like art-related crossover work. So the first speakers today are going to be London Biohackspace. So let's give them a big round of applause.
Hi, so I'm a director of London Biohackspace, and we're based in the London Hackspace. Some of you may have been there. It's not very far from here. It's just on Hackney Road, number 447. If you haven't been there, if you go inside, it looks a bit like this on the ground floor. We've got 3D printers, laser cutters, that sort of thing, electronics workbenches, all sorts of things. And we've got a really large membership, 1,200 members and growing, programmers, artists, designers, scientists, everything, engineers, you know, take a pick from all walks of life. So this is our kind of the top area, the ground floor. Then we've got, if you go downstairs, you'll see the workshop. You can come and do carpentry, metalworking, robotics, whatever. But the important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is this room here. Bit of a stretch photo, but hey. So this is the biolab, and this is a CL1 approved, so class 1 biological agent approved laboratory. There's it from maybe a more flattering angle. And what it lets us do is genetic engineering, right? And so we are the first UK community lab that is allowed to do genetic engineering, and it's not very far from here, so I recommend going to check it out. And we have all sorts of people within our subgroup, the London Biohackers. So we have people with a background in biology, people with programming backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, but we also have artists and designers who are very keen to get involved and have been involved in many of our projects. So we also, and I would categorize the kind of people that turn up into 3 types of people. So we have those that have a background in biology already and are scientists by training, but they have their own hobby projects. They like to have fun and mess around with science, and so they come because they can't necessarily do all this stuff in their own labs, and they want a bit of freedom, so they come and do their own hobby projects. Then we have people who are there to learn about biology, right? They don't have a background in science or anything, but they want to learn about science. They want to have it as a hobby project. And there are also people that, and that can be, you know, people who are programmers, designers, artists. And then we also have people that have a background in biology, but maybe want to come at it from an investment point of view, and start working on a little proof of concept that they can pitch to investors and then spin it out into a little business maybe. So we have 3 types of equipment maybe. So we have home-built stuff. So this is a shaker that we used for culturing bacteria. In this case, we shook some peach slices with it, but you can use it to shake some bacteria in a flask. That's quite useful if you're trying to grow them. And it's just made out of an old CD-ROM drive. That works quite well. Or something like this. This is my baby. This is I made an aseptic flow hood out of a server fan, pretty beefy server fan, and a filter. So it all came in like this, was me testing it. And it came to about £150. A commercial unit would cost you upwards of 2,000. So there you go. We're on a tight budget, and so we use our kind of Hackspace ingenuity and the tools and the electronics area and all that sort of stuff to try and figure out cheaper ways of doing things. Things like this, which are repurposed. So this is a pasty warmer, bought for £5 at a car boot sale. Holds 37 degrees fantastically. So if you want to culture bacteria, E. coli, whatever, can pop it in this and it works fantastically. The number up there says 40 degrees C, that's because the inbuilt temperature sensor is absolutely rubbish. So we put our own thermometer in there, and so when we set it to 40, it holds 37 incredibly well. Other things like this is just a transilluminator, UV transilluminator, so if we're doing working with DNA and things like that, we need to visualize results, and something like this. This came when it was broken, so we fixed it with a bit of acrylic. Something like this, again, this is what we use to transfer DNA into our little microbes. So this is an electroporator, for those of you who know, and this came kind of half working and missing pieces, so we fabricated our own pieces and made it work. And things like this, this is an autoclave, so for sterilizing, glass equipment and media to grow things in, everything needs to be sterile when you're working with microbes, because you only want to be growing the microbes you want to be growing and not any old shit that's floating around in the air. And so this generally will cost you £5 new, 1,500 if it was second hand. But if you're us, you can scout eBay and get it 50 quid from a dentist who found it didn't work anymore. We thought, it sounds like just a blown fuse. And so lo and behold, we replaced the fuse, and there we go. For £51, sorry, and the price of a new fuse, we had a £1,500 working autoclave. So there we are. So where do we get some of this stuff? Well, universities are really helpful. So we go around to university labs and we ask them, hey, are you using this equipment that you're going to throw out? Or that sort of thing. Try and keep a network up of research labs and things like that. And they let us know if they're throwing things out. And we come and pick them up, hopefully in working order. If not, we'll try and fix them. If not, we'll throw them out. So this was a big haul from Oxford, from the lab that I used to work in. And so the sort of projects we've been doing, we're messing around with these guys. These are bioluminescent dinoflagellates. So there's not a particularly stellar picture on the right-hand side, but in the dark, if you shake them up, they grow really nice and blue. So that picture doesn't really do them justice. And we've got nice microscopes, or a few nice microscopes that we've managed to get really nice photos of with. So we've got a bunch of people interested in microscopy and really perfecting that technique of taking nice photos with a microscope on the cheap. And that's one of the results. We've also done workshops like this. This wasn't in London, this was down in Falmouth. This was the Eastergram workshop. And we got a bunch of people, this was everyone, again, any walk of life, and including farmers. We had a couple of farmers turn up. It was brilliant to show them how to culture yeast on a petri dish. And not only that, but then also to kind of make your own designs using the yeast, just as a kind of introduction to microbiology. So we got people to plate up some yeast, start growing on a petri dish, come up with a design to put on the lid of that petri dish, and then we exposed, if you see in the bottom right hand corner, we exposed them using this setup to UV light, and that killed all the yeast that would have been growing where the design didn't cover it up. And so it came out with results a bit like this. It's a fuzzy photo, but nonetheless, this is someone's design firm, their logo, so they just put that in and they managed to get yeast to show up. So it's kind of like a living design, if you want to call it that. And so the genetic engineering stuff, this is the stuff I find really interesting, really cool. So at the moment, we've only just got our license like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, so we're just starting out, but things like making bacteria purple that aren't normally purple, so that's expressing, the one on the left there is expressing proteins that you'd normally find in a coral. So all those nice deep sea, all those nice shallow sea corals that are bright purple, well, it's the same thing that's making those bacteria purple. And those guys on the right-hand side are glowing nice and green under UV light. That's just some GFP, so that's a kind of standard thing. There's another nice picture of glowing bacteria. So these are the kind of things we can do. These are just basic. But as for a more complicated thing, well, last year UCL gave us some money to a few of us in the Biohackspace to develop this iGEM project idea we had, because it was the first year that community labs could take part in this big iGEM competition. For those that don't know, this is a big university undergrad, really, it's aimed at them, for teams to come up with ideas to do with genetic engineering over the summer and then execute them to some extent and then go and present them. And so there were, I think, 4,000 people at the big conference in Boston last year, and I got to go there off the back of UCL's kind funding, and present our project, which was Juicy Print. and this was something I did in collaboration with Catherine. And so the basic idea is to use this sort of bacteria that makes cellulose, which is kind of comes out quite gelatinous, but can be quite tough. It's a bit like some people describe it as a vegetable leather. It's the kind of stuff that grows on top of kombucha. You get this weird pancake of stuff growing on that. If you've ever grown kombucha yourself, you'll know. And so we messed around with it, and the idea is to turn that using this little genetic circuit, essentially, into a 3D printer by layering cellulose in different shapes. So the basic premise is the cellulose only grows at the top of whatever you grow your bacteria in, and using that genetic circuit we can control when and where the cellulose is produced using light. So using a projector we can project a pattern down onto the surface of the liquid medium that the bacteria is growing in, and create a two-dimensional kind of pancake shape in whatever shape we want it to be. We can then push that cellulose down a little bit just below, and a new layer will start to grow, and we can project a new image and a new shape will start to emerge, and you keep layering two-dimensional shapes on top of each other and you end up with a 3D form. That's the theory anyway. So we made like a little non-functional prototype, look like this, and so one of the nice things, the reason it's called juicy print is you can grow this bacteria in orange juice, so why not? And so here was our non-functional prototype, bacteria growing in orange juice, projector shining down on them, and hopefully in the next iteration the projector shining down on them will actually be guiding where the cellulose is being produced. Okay, and so one of the nice things about that was Catherine was looking into it as she's got a textiles background, and so she was looking into it as a kind of way of creating novel textiles or novel textual kind of things to use in her upcoming projects. And yeah, it was interesting to see things from that perspective, and so we had a look at a whole bunch of things that Suzanne Lee and people like that have been doing, all about fashion using cellulose and bacterial cellulose. Could it be that in the future we'll be manufacturing textiles using biological things, more than just cows and plants, right? So current projects, we've got our 2015 iGEM project, this time funded mostly by Imperial College, London, and we're kind of making a whole bunch of yeast strains that will each do something different, each produce a novel flavour or something like that. That when you brew your beer or wine with the yeast, it will kind of come out with a strawberry flavour or banana flavour or whatever, maybe some additional nutritional value, something like that, perhaps extra fruity, whatever, something along those lines. We've got someone else working on mind-controlled bacteria. Sounds more impressive than it is, but that's kind of the point. We've got chaps working on DIY protein purification, and then we're kind of working with people from Shuffle Festival on a bee fish oil, which are these blue glowing bacteria, to try and get schools to get hands-on with it, and it will eventually be part of one of the exhibits at Shuffle Festival. Cool, and I think that's pretty much it. That's an introduction to our space. So yeah, afterwards, I guess, any questions of the panel?
Thanks, Ilya and Catherine from London Biohackspace. Before I open up the questions to the floor, I actually have a question of my own. Is there anything really dangerous that you've ever come across that you've used?
Okay, so I think that is a fairly important question, right? So one of the things we do is we say strictly no pathogenic anything. So if anything could cause disease, then firstly we're not licensed to be using it, and secondly, why would you want to be doing that anyway? We will probably tell the authorities if you come to us saying we don't do something like that. So.
And I've got a question also for Catherine. I'm an artist myself who's very interested in science. What do you find interesting about bioscience and biolaboratories within sort of textiles art and arts in general?
I think for me it's more about the potential of what you could do with this. I think we're quite not restricted, but a lot has been done now with the materials that exist, and we're kind of running out of innovative things. So, especially synthetic biology, it's kind of allowing you to modify these organisms that could grow us some really interesting, new, novel materials that we've never experienced before. And I think the potential for that for me is just really fascinating, which is why I'm kind of continuing to involve myself with the Biohackspace. It's such a wide mix of people that the ideas that we come up with sometimes are just so you couldn't do it alone. I think it's a really nice place to be.
Okay, so are there any questions for Catherine and Ilya from the floor? Yeah.
Hi. It's really interesting what you're doing. I think it's also a bit politically disturbing. I wonder how you approach issues of genetic mutilation from an ethical, moral standpoint. It seems that you're quite hooked into a corporate science university lab. Good relationship there, maybe your background's there as well. I mean, it's quite disturbing that there's people losing their lives campaigning against GMOs, and what's this hipster biopiracy stuff about? Just respond to that. I know there's no clear answer.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I personally, and everyone who's involved in the Biohackspace and the UK government has no issues with letting us do work with GMOs under the rules that we set up. So, you know, we're all hobbyists enjoying science for what it is. So, I mean, if people are anti-GMO, then I guess this is not the place to be.
Okay, any other questions from the floor? Has anyone got a mic?
Hi, hello. So I just wanted to ask, what's the aim, the spirit of the organization? Is it to do independent science, to be doing things with the community? What would you say is the aim?
So I think it's basically, at its heart, it's a room full of lab equipment, right? It's a lab that is open to anyone to join and do with it, you know, within the rules, basically, what they want to do. So it's for personal projects, really. And if you want to do projects with the community, it's a fantastic place to do it. If you want to, you know, do all these weird things where you get to collaborate with people you wouldn't normally, it's the perfect place to do that. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a room full of equipment. So yeah, make of it what you can make of it, essentially.
Okay, any final questions?
Just a really simple question. I'm from a kind of technology background, but not really biology at all. So a lot of what you're saying sounds really fascinating, but it's way over my head. So I just wondered, at more of a kind of like introductory level, are there things that you do that would bring people that don't really have so much experience like that?
Yeah, so it's something, you know, we're nascent, you know, we've not been going for that long. And so most of the people, well, a lot of the people there do have a background in biology, and but then equally a lot of people don't, and they're happy to tag along and learn from those that do, right? And so often it's by coming up with an interesting project that, you know, you start working with someone who does have a background, and you basically, as some sort of partnership, essentially, one person learns from the other and vice versa, right? So that's the kind of main mode. We are looking into, some people kind of want to do workshops for the public, you know, the Dummy's Guide to Genetic Engineering, that sort of thing, right? But that's a lot of effort, and you know, a lot of people just want to get on with their own projects. But yeah, we really hope to be doing, you know, it'd be brilliant to introduce more people through this. Yeah, it'd be brilliant. And so the best thing I can say is, if you're willing, you know, to learn a bit of biology, right? It might involve picking up a textbook at some point. If you really want to dig into it, then yeah, come along, brilliant, get involved.
Okay, thanks very much for London Biohackspace. Is there one final question?
Yeah, I don't know, it's probably not really nice to end up on this, but my original question was going to be what are the politics behind this, but I think you've made them pretty clear. And I think with a project like that, if there's no political thinking around it, and if there's no reflection around the political implication of science and what it is we're doing and why, and what it means in the context that we live in, for me it's a very, very, very restricted view of what I see as the DIY culture. So, yeah. Sorry, it's a bit negative, but that's what I got from it.
So, is that a question or a point?
No, it's just...
Okay, I'd like you to answer that as if it was a question, which is, you know, do you think there are any politics involved with what you're doing, or do you see it as completely an individualistic activity and anything basically goes? Because this event is within the context of DIY cultures, and my understanding of DIY cultures is actually that it's broadly speaking anti-capitalist and anti the status quo, and that we're trying to actually break out of the scientific and patriarchal norms that we're forced to operate under.
So the way I see it is we do have a set of guidelines that were thought up with a bunch of all the other DIY biologists in across Europe actually. So we have very prominently stated that you must abide by the DIY Bio EU guidelines, right? And that is things about ensure that what you are doing is not going to be, ensure that you are thinking ethically about what you're doing, ensure that you are not going to be doing things that are willfully harmful, or that might be unexpectedly harmful to the best of your kind of ability, right? It's all designed to be done with good intentions. One of the things with synthetic biology and like that, sure, in the future, recently there was a nice comment piece in Nature about how opiates can be manufactured with yeast just from basic starting compounds, right? And it's going to make distribution of these sorts of things much easier in the future. I think that's true, and I think what we're going to be doing, what we do, kind of pushes that forward quicker. So in that sense, in the DIY culture sense of things, yeah, things are going to become more decentralized because of exactly the technology that we're working with. Whether or not that's capitalist or anti-capitalist, I have no comment on that. I'm not particularly interested. And so yeah, in that sense, I guess maybe it is individualistic. But I think all the people that gather there have liked the idea of open source and are interested in where this decentralization and that sort of technology can take us.
I think in one way in which it does differ from sort of decentralizing, it does democratize the whole area of science in a way. For me, I think that's what London Biohackspace does, and it does provide an alternative biological narrative to the narrative that you get within the academy. So from that point of view, it does have a slight political stance with regards to that.
I would disagree with that.
Really? Okay.
We really want to work with universities, right? We're not anti-universities, we are in a completely mutualistic relationship with universities. They want to work with us, we want to work with them actually.
Yeah, I didn't mean that you're anti-university. I just meant that it's an alternative narrative to
exactly. Yeah, for sure. And that's what I'm saying. But universities want to be involved in what we do, right? Yes. I mean, to put it simply, like they're interested in us. So they're interested in. If you want to call us DIY, then they're interested in DIY too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, London Biohackspace. Let's give them a big round of applause. And our next speaker is going to be Blackgirltech, Dami from Blackgirltech. Give her a round of applause.
Good afternoon. You're leaving? Have you even started yet? Oh, come on. My name's Dami. I'm 22 years old, and I started an organisation called Blackgirltech. I don't have a presentation. I have my laptop, and sometimes technology just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So I'm just going to kind of talk, and hopefully you can keep up with me. First, I'd like to give a bit of background. So in 2013, I graduated university with an English literature and creative writing degree. The aim was to become a writer and, you know, be a poet and like just live that writing lifestyle. And I don't know if there are any writers in the crowd, but writing just really doesn't pay the bills unless you wait 10 years, write a Harry Potter, and then become a millionaire. That's just not the case for most of us, right? So when I graduated from the university, I was jobless. I was on job seekers allowance, and I thought to myself, to be taken seriously as a writer, I should probably expand my blog, and I should probably make my blog a full-blown website. And I didn't have any money to pay anyone to do it, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to have to do this myself, right? So I went on the internet, the good old internet. Google was like my best friend, and I learned HTML and CSS, and I was just like, I thought that was all I needed, right? And then I started discovering like JavaScript, which made things like flash and like pop out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then I started learning about Ruby, which is the language I specialize in now. And that's mainly to do with the backend. That's mainly to do with how things are stored in databases. And it doesn't sound so cool, but like when you see it on a screen happen and things just like appear and like your login details are saved, you're kind of like, well, okay, that seems actually pretty interesting. So I started to learn a bit more by myself, and I figured, you know what, writing isn't going to pay my bills, but coding probably can. So I started calling up some agencies that did websites for different companies or whatever, to kind of just be like, will anyone give me work experience? I wasn't even trying to get paid, I just wanted to learn so I could be in a position to get paid, right? And all of these places were essentially saying the same thing: what you're doing is great, but you just don't know enough. It's not enough to be able to like change the background blue. You need to actually know why the background's there in the first place, right? So I decided I'd do a boot camp, and I don't know if many of you have heard of like General Assembly, Baker's Academy. These are all coding boot camps, and the premise is that you learn how to code in 3 months, and after 3 months you have enough knowledge to kind of go out in the big bad world and become a coder. So I was part of a boot camp called We Got Coders. The first 3 months is training, and the last 3 months is work experience, and I thought that's great, because I get the training and the work experience. And it was a bit difficult for me because at the time I was actually supposed to go to SOAS to study African literature. I still love writing, but the price was the same, so I had to pick the one that was going to put food on my table. I went on to this boot camp. In October, the boot camp finished, and I was back in a place of joblessness. Right now, I'm looking for jobs, and I'm realizing that actually a lot of the teams are predominantly white men. If they are diverse, it's diversity in gender, and it's really white women. If there are any people of color, it's usually a man. And I began looking at statistics, and I realized that 3% of the tech industry is women of color. Are women of color, sorry. And that's an American statistic, which, you know, covers a whole greater population. Tech has really taken off in America, not so much. Well, we have a tech hub here, but it's just not as big as like Silicon Valley, right? So I imagine that that 3% is significantly smaller in the UK. And I'm the kind of person who's always been interested in diversity, and this kind of struck me as a problem. I realized that actually, when I think about it, when I was in school, ICT did not involve any kind of programming at all. And actually, I was only pushed to do ICT to make up a quota. I was more steered towards health and social care, liberal arts kind of subjects. And the boys were more steered towards ICT BTech, which involved a lot more building, creating, and that sort of thing. And I'm a creative, so I love to build, and that's one of the reasons I'm in love with coding, right? So that's kind of how Blackgirltech was born. It was kind of came from a place of, I want to help give more women of color the opportunity to find out if they even really like this. Because many people haven't had the opportunity to discover whether or not they like coding. Hands up in the audience if you've ever coded before, ever. Right. And hands up if you learn how to code in school. Hands up if, out of those who have coded, if it was a thing you had to kind of discover for yourself. Right, that's most of the people who have coded, right? So my kind of aim is for all over the world, and they have as a workshop in London I believe it's every Friday, and it's a wonderful place to be if you're interested. And I basically asked her, why do you think racial diversity hasn't been welcomed in the same way as gender diversity? Because something you'll notice in the tech world is that when we do speak of diversity, we're speaking of gender diversity, which is great. I think that's fantastic, because I think more women should be in the coding industry. But here's what Linda Lucas has to say about that.
Finland is super homogeneous racially. I think the main is that we lacked just diversity in the problems that we're solving also. A lot of the problems that tech companies are currently solving are problems that young white male have, and that's why we need more people with different values, different experiences, different problems to solve, who have the tools to be able to build the world they vision.
So what Linda was basically saying there, I don't know if you can hear, but the problems that we're solving are basically young male white problems. And right now, the young male white has a problem of women, mainly, right? Everyone's on their backs of get more women into tech, get more women, where are the women? We have all these reports, Google, AOL, Airbnb, releasing all these reports to show how diverse or not so diverse they are. And what that means is that actually there's a group of people who, because they are not seen as an inherent or a problem right now, they're kind of losing out. And my mum is very convinced that the reason it took so long for me to find a job full stop is because of my race. I'm not so sure, but there are statistics to back that up. And so the whole point of Blackgirltech is not just about teaching coding, it's not just about the workshops and the tutorials, but it's just about building a community for women of colour who may possibly be interested in tech or who are already in tech and their allies to kind of support us along the way. And so we have our website, www.blackgirltech.co.uk. You can find us on Twitter at Blackgirltech. You can find us on Facebook, Blackgirltech. And there are many ways to get involved. We will be starting workshops and we will be looking for volunteers. So all those who put their hands up who are coders, I expect emails saying that you are so keen and eager to volunteer, you just want to be a part of this. You can email me at info@blackgirltech.co.uk with the subject title volunteer. And we have also a range of things coming out. We have regular blog posts just about things that are going on in the tech world, whether it's Spotify and their war with Tidal and other music streaming services, or, you know, the latest phones and gadgets. So if this is something you are interested in, please do speak to me after. I'm going to be hanging around for a little while. And yeah, that's Blackgirltech. Thank you. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Gary. That's a fantastic talk. I've got a quick question for you. I was just wondering, what sort of age range do you teach? Do you teach very young women to very much older women? Are people who are perhaps in middle age as interested as getting into tech as maybe sort of school children might be?
Yeah, so we haven't started our workshops yet. I'm a one-man band. I'm the whole of Blackgirltech, one-woman band, thank you. And so I have been working on tutorials, which I hopefully will start releasing from June. Now, which is next month. Yeah, June. The plan is to kind of have 2 sets of workshops. So I live in Lambeth Council, and I'm very big on doing community work. And so I would love to release workshops for kids in my local council on a bi-weekly basis, and I'm in talks with them at the moment concerning that. So that's what I'm looking at, is from kids from age 7 onwards. However, I am also very interested, well, the main goal as well is to have a monthly workshop in London. I'm in talks with Makers Academy, the CEO of Makers Academy, and he would love for me to have a monthly workshop at Makers Academy for women of colour over 18. So these are people my age, middle age, whatever, any age. And the idea is that you'll be working from the tutorials that would be online, and if you get stuck, if there's anything you need help with, you could come to these workshops. So really we have kind of 2 age brackets. I guess most of the people here, I'm assuming, are over 18. So if you're a woman of colour and this is something you're interested in, then by all means, hopefully by August we'll have set things up with Makers Academy and would have monthly workshops as well. But the online tutorials really are going to be suitable for all ages. When you're learning how to code, it's important that you know, kind of start things off basic, so everyone can understand.
That's great, that's great. Now, does anyone have any questions for Danny from the audience? Any questions for Danny? Over there? Someone get him a mic? Get her a mic, sorry.
Hi. Hi. I think it's really cool what you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm really technical, so big on girls tech here. But do you envisage any problems going forward with the fact that it's called Blackgirltech? Because obviously there's women of colour such as Asian and Hispanic women, and they might be maybe not realising that it's open to them as well.
Yeah, that is something I've thought of, and I can see why there would be a problem. However, I don't think there should be a problem. Only because the focus needs to be on, and not to come across rude or offensive, but the focus needs to be on women who are not white. And unfortunately, in this world, the polar opposite to white is black. It would, if I start doing like Asian girl tech or Indian girl tech or, you know, other girl tech, it breaks down the binaries. And if we're gonna be real about it, we have been using black to mean other for a very long time.
It's a political term as well, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a political term as well. And it's not meant to exclude anyone. And if it does become a serious thing, I haven't had any backlash yet, and I may. And if it does become a serious thing, then it's definitely something I'm open to reconsider, because I don't want to make other women of colour feel excluded. However, saying that though, another statistic which I left out as well by accident is that actually, if you are a woman of colour working in tech, you're more likely to be not black, like not actually a black woman. You're more likely to be of Asian descent actually working in tech. And that's not to say I don't want to address that issue, because I do, but the minority of the minority is the black girl tech. And so I kind of do want to uplift them a little bit and just show that, you know what, although we are the minority of the minority, there are still people like us out here. And we still want to support and encourage you and put you on a pedestal and make you feel good about yourself out here, as well as making other women feel good about themselves. I hope, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really cool. I was just I was just clarifying that you were using black as other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, cool. Has anyone got any more questions for Dami?
Yeah, firstly, just wanted to say what you're doing sounds absolutely amazing and really important. Secondly, I was just wondering, so what kind of, is it something that you want to take to people's houses or into schools, or are you looking to set up, find a place which already has, I think maybe I might have missed that, like places that already has computers?
Ideally, I'd like somewhere that already has computers, because computers are expensive. But yeah, so for the kids workshop that I'm kind of working at with Lambeth, I think we're going to probably have to sort out how we're going to get computers and things like that. But for the adult workshop, the idea is that you bring your laptop.
Okay.
So if you bring your laptop, then you're kind of already sorted. And I do want to get, because I'm still a one-woman band, I don't really have much financial backing or whatever, but I do want to get to a place where this becomes a proper like school, and we can provide equipment and machinery and stuff, but I'm just unfortunately not there yet. But yeah, and hopefully I do want to go into schools as well at some point, but...
Cool, sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got one last question, and then we'll move on to the next speaker.
Oh, hello. What would you say is the best way that we can be supportive of it? If obviously we're not black, but we want to support this initiative, what would be the best way to do that?
Okay, if you code at all, or you're proficient in coding, volunteering for one of our workshops will probably be the best way. If you do not code, then just spreading the word and just getting the word out there, because if you look around you right now, there are not that many women of colour around you. And I think it's a lack of awareness. We don't really know the options there for us. So I think spreading the word, if you don't know how to code, is a great way. And we have a Slack channel as well, which you can sign up to on our website. And the whole point of that is to create a forum, a community, so people can ask their questions about coding in there, and their questions can get answered. You don't have to be a woman of colour to join that. You don't have to be a woman of colour to help and support in that way either. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Debbie. Let's hear it for Debbie. Okay. Woo! Okay, I'm really, really privileged to welcome Gail Chester, who is from the Feminist Library and Breaking the Frame, and she's going to be reading some poetry, I think.
Hello. I was going to start by making a joke about old technology being more reliable, but as you just see my performance with the water jug, I think we'll leave that one out. Okay, so I am from Breaking the Frame, which is an organisation, as it says up there, which will be holding its second gathering in the beautiful Derbyshire countryside in the middle of July. And we are tackling the politics of technology, and we're specifically, within that, we're looking at gender and the politics of technology. And I've got flyers for this gorgeous event where you can come and sit in the countryside for 3 whole days, even if you don't want to talk about technology, it would be lovely. Okay, so so as Helena said, I'm going to be reading a few of my pieces in a minute, and they summarise much of what I feel about what I call domestic digital technology, which is to say mobile phones, PCs, computers, and the internet, because I started getting interested in this when my son was about 16, and he became, from being a very kind of outward-going young man, into being rather isolated and rather fixated on his individual computer in his room. And I started reading about things about Japanese boys in particular who felt very isolated, and so as I've been a lifelong feminist, I was very interested in the fact that the person is political, and I thought, this can't just be me, it's not just I'm a bad parent, which is what society keeps trying to tell you. So that was how I got involved in starting to think about the politics of technology, and we organised some events around the 200th anniversary of the Luddites uprising, so we were celebrating what the Luddites did, and then that moved into Breaking the Frame. So basically Breaking the Frame is developing, or trying to develop, a radical politics of technology which is anti-patriarchal and anti-capitalist. And we're fighting against this system of social control, which has actually developed, particularly since the scientific revolution, which some of you may know about. It's happening about 400 years ago. And basically what the scientific revolution was all about was, it was an attempt by, it was a patriarchal initiative to tame nature. Nature being defined as female, and it was an appropriation essentially of women's knowledge, which, as you know, herbalism, wise women were herbalists, wise women were midwives, and the chaps didn't like that very much. So they thought, let's kind of bring everyone into hospitals, let's say it's scientific and it's boys. So that's my kind of overall ongoing historical political analysis. Anyway, so just to give you a kind of concrete examples from today, reproductive technologies is obviously very much to do with gender politics. And it may be, that's an obvious area, but also you should consider that women farmers in the global majority countries are the ones who are mainly speaking out against genetic modification, and that women in those countries particularly hold much of the knowledge about biodiversity. And then if we look more in the so-called developed world, women's jobs especially are under threat by technology. If you look at what's happening in supermarkets, in libraries, they're even trying to robotise caring. And what really concerns me and concerns us generally in Breaking the Frame is that it's removing empathy, increasing alienation, breaking up communities, and it actually seems to be a deliberate assault on the whole working class, because under patriarchy, women are left to pick up the pieces. And I just say, I'm currently, I don't know about you lot, but I'm still recovering from PETS, which is post-electoral trauma syndrome. So yes, that's why I may be a little less bouncy today than I might otherwise be. Okay, so I'm just going to read you some, as I say, a couple of my pieces about all this. So the first one is called 10 Haikus in Honour of Computer-Free Day, 10th of October. Now, as you know, I'm sure, haikus have 17 syllables, and if you count, you will find that each one of these has 17 syllables. Okay? So, 1. Computer-free day, 10, 10, 10. Does idea send shivers down spine? 2. What could I do with all the time saved not dealing with emails and spam? 3. Think of the terror induced by thought of giving your mobile away. 4. Consider the implications of total computer dependence. Is anyone counting? They are all 17 syllables, I promise you. Okay, number 5. Can one sustain professional job unless one's good on computer? 6. Do you like what you see? Are you happy to be enthralled to machines? 7. Then think of the peace you'd regain by creating some space in your brain. 8. No broadband access for last week. It's really upset other people. 9. Don't fuck with me, yelled computer, breaking straight after Comp-Free Day launch. 10. If they'd invented email first, we'd say, wow, you can talk on the phone. Thank you. Okay, so the next one is called, well, it's actually an extract. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, so it's quite long. This is an extract from one called Middle-Aged Mobile Phone Users Lament. I was sitting at the bus stop minding my own business when I decided to give someone a call. I got out my phone and began to dial when this geezer sitting next to me, who was at least as old as I was, leaned across like he had known me all his life and said, in a nudge-nudge, wink-wink sort of way, "No danger of you getting mugged for that, is there?" I was irked. "Who do you think you are?" I wanted to reply. "What gives you the right to comment on my phone as if you were some shell-suited 20-year-old with a webcam, iPod, Wi-Fi, MP3, does everything but suck your condiments item? You wish!" Instead, I said, "Yes, you're right. That's why I like it." But this was a lie. I don't like my phone. I love my phone. I love it because it's solid and reliable and reminds me of my beloved auntie. I love that it survived being driven over by a motorbike when I dropped it in the street and was rescued by a kind Orthodox man from Golders Green who went to endless trouble to restore it to me. And it provided a talking point with this gorgeous young woman I met at the Feminist health gathering, who was captivated by its slightly battle-scarred retro appearance. When I first got my phone, I used to joke that the reason nobody over 40 used a mobile phone was because their arms were not long enough to hold it far away enough to read its postage stamp-sized screen. Now, of course, there are phones with screens you can watch the cup final on, but so flimsy they might break if you drop them on the floor. Okay, so then I chat on a bit about what happened when I couldn't get a battery for my phone, and I'll leave all that out. So meanwhile, my son's year-old mobile lost its ring, my sister got mugged for her phone, much less salubrious than mine, my partner got ripped off by his contract supplier, and my dear old phone plodded on. That is to say, until the charger broke and I admitted defeat temporarily, but I will reclaim it one day. So thank you. That one. Okay, Helen has started to give me dirty looks. So I'm just going to read this one, which is the kind of companion piece of the last one. This is called "The Young Twitter Enthusiasts Lament." Crap! I ordered tickets for this cool gathering about intersectionality in the online community, but my phone is out of battery and I don't have a printer. I do have an order confirmation number though. But now I'm lost on the way from the station because my map is on my phone as well. And I'm supposed to be meeting my best friend there. But we didn't say exactly where, because we knew we could text each other when we got nearby. And I'm not sure what time it is, because I don't wear a watch, because I use my phone to tell the time. Too late, sweetie. They won't let you in without a barcode.
Thank you, Gail, that's amazing. Before I open up questions to Gail, I've got a question of my own. As a woman who works in technology and who codes for a living, what do you think of initiatives which empower women more within the technological sphere, such as Blackgirltech and other sort of initiatives?
Yeah, well, I think that is obviously it's a really complicated question. I mean, you know, the thing is, I'm not anti-technology in the same way that, you know, most people everybody in Breaking Phone is not anti-technology. But what I think is that there's a very unquestioning assumption that this is all for the best in the best of all possible worlds.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that at all. Yeah, I mean, there's just, you know, one of the other pieces I didn't just read out is called Off Your Computer and Onto the Street. And I made badges. I've got badges I can sell you for 50p each afterwards. But the point is that in that poem, one of the things I say is that, you know, we keep getting told that the wonders of technology is that you can communicate with millions of people across the world. But actually what worries me is that we can't communicate with a few people around the corner, that we find that really hard to do. So I'm certainly very happy. I mean, I think the Blackgirltech initiative is brilliant, and, you know, all that kind of thing.
It's brilliant.
But, you know, with reservations.
There are reservations. I understand. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Gail? Anyone? Yeah.
Hi. Do you think that your whimsical approach to the quite serious politics that you're trying to address take away from some really serious things, such as the problem with the boys in Japan currently is actually really serious, and the problem with children and technology is quite bad developmentally? And do you think that perhaps the way that you approach audiences with regards to your political notions maybe takes the shock of that?
Okay, that's an interesting question. This today, if you like, was a bit of an experiment, and I've never done this before. And I always, you know, I just kind of go on, you know, seriously and sensibly and politically in, you know, about my political beliefs. And in fact, again, another little ad is there's a 10-minute YouTube video of me talking about gender and politics and technology on the Breaking the Frame website, if you want to have a look at that. The reason that I decided to do that today was, I mean, this stuff is like completely dear to my heart, and I take it tremendously seriously. But the thing is that I have found myself in a number of situations, and I was actually quite worried, to be honest, that it was going to happen again today, where, you know, people are just, you know, because of the ageism in society, I just look like this kind of bad-tempered, grumpy old woman who doesn't understand about modern technology and is very negative. But I mean, as you would have gathered from the question that I asked to this lot before, you know, I think it's hugely important. And if you think that doesn't work, I'll try something else next time. You know.
Do you have a website or an email address or something in case there's people who would like to help you present your arguments in a more open way, and that could help and like help you to reach further audiences with regards to the politics that you're trying to address?
Well, I mean, I would be completely thrilled, totally thrilled to have anybody kind of join in. We did actually have a Women in the Politics of Technology Day at the end of March, but we concentrated on reproductive technologies that day, although despite the fact that I think reproductive technologies is an issue for men, I think most of this stuff is an issue for men as well as women, actually. Yes, I mean, I would say that we're going to have somewhat of a focus on gender at our gathering in the summer. If, you know, I'd just love to talk to you, basically. Anyone who wants to talk to me afterwards, I'd be thrilled. And we have got that website, but it could do with a bit of development, so maybe Blackgirltech could help.
Okay, have we got any final questions for Gail? I'm more at the front.
Hi, thank you for coming, and you brought a lot of depth to this panel, and it's been much more strident and militant in everything that you do. I wanted to ask you what your response was to Earth rights politics coming from...
Earth rights, I think you said.
Yeah. You mentioned before about, you know, twisting the tail of nature, nature's feminine, exploited. But then in the indigenous movements coming out of South America, Earth is gendered, Mother Earth is gendered. Non-humans have rights, which GM mutilates, which is abominable. But, you know...
is a, you know, we're a wide spectrum of interests, and and that is the good thing, I think, about it, is that it's bringing different aspects of the politics of technology for everybody to discuss. And so, as I did mention in my introduction, we have done some work about, you know, women farmers in the third world, and again, there's talks on our website about this. And I think, you know, we work with Via Campesina, which is the peasants' rights movement, and clearly a lot of people within Breaking the Frame are very concerned about third world issues and about, you know, about environmental issues. I mean, I think this too is digital is an environmental issue, because we're going to run out of, you know, of those minerals which, you know, we need those to make mobile phones. Apparently there's only 25 years worth of them in the ground, and taking them out of the ground is in countries in Africa, in particularly the Congo, which is leading to the wars there, which is leading to the rape of women. You know, everything is totally connected. So I think there's no doubt that there's space for all of that within, you know, within our initiative, really.
Okay, thank you very much, Gail Chester. Let's give a big round of applause. I've got one quick announcement to make. DIY Poetics is starting in 5 minutes in venue 1 on the 4th floor. And for the last talk, Numbi will be replacing Rachel Long. So our final speaker and visual artist who's going to show some of her amazing work today is Chuk Lee Tan.
Hi everyone, my name is Chuk Lee Tan. I work with performance, video, and installations and sculptures. I'm also an occasional DJ. I mix electronic music, techno, and rave music as well. I moved to London from France in 2000 and studied fine art here. And now I'm here. I show work in screenings, exhibition spaces. And I have worked with scientists, some of them from Imperial College, theoretical physicists. And I worked with a poet as well, with all sorts of people. I'm going to show you 3 videos. The first one is video documentation of a performance I did at Gasworks in London 1 year ago.
Ethics, culture, humanism, good, evil, beginning, end, which are only covers for all too rational people. Down with failed innovations, down with the literary hollow heads, and the fairies for improving the material use.
So for this performance, I thought I'd use a 7-year-old young girl to give a speech as a wake-up call for revolution. And then we see her leaving the room to play Minecraft, the sound of which was mixed with some electronic beats composed by a friend of mine. The next video is a video which has toured in the UK. It was shown at CCA Glasgow, Whitechapel Gallery, and other venues. It has been shown also in Canada.
You were late?
I think I was late.
Yeah. So how did you act then?
I acted like I was on time.
You just wouldn't be able to know without like the same
All the time it would be there. Just looking at chat because in the case, like, there's no stimulus required. It's like to create a light to be emitted from the person that's already happened. So the actual observation, the fact that your eyes there is the same as when you create the light in order to determine where a particle is.
The surprising thing about this expression is that it is not accurate. In all circumstances.
So in a sense there's no such thing as now, and the past and the future are just as real as this moment. So maybe nothing is ever lost, because the past is still in existence in some kind of way.
So it's just a matter of finding it some days again?
It's part of the shape you make in space-time. You could look at it that way. If you were objective, if you're outside time, looking at this building and this room, you would see everything that ever happened in it all at once.
What about the velocity relative to an observer on the ground? This reference line points in the direction which we call up. There's a different direction here than it is on the other side of the Earth. And these two reference lines specify a plane, which we call horizontal or level.
that's a star at the end of its life. It's gone supernova.
Like everything that we know as normal, as laws, didn't exist anymore. Suddenly it started like.
So in this video you can see my interest in sciences and electronic music, among other things. In this video I have used my own field recordings. I have stolen a song from internet. There's a clip from a radio show that was made in Oslo, in which you hear a woman talking to a man, which I brought from a writer who broadcasted this radio show. And there's my own footage and some that I have found online as well. And at some point you see a physicist writing on the board, and then I pop out of the blue. The physicist is Peter Lewis. He's an expert in quantum physics at Imperial College. I'm going to show you another video. It will be the last one. The signatories of Ublism have, under the glare of a nuclear starburst, committed to shed tears. Oubli! Our tidal helicopters conceive new physical realities from which we will harvest fresh perspective. Ublism symbolizes the most fundamental relationship with the surrounding reality. With Ublism, new worlds and systems are perpetually bound in the ashes of withering civilization. We disown this life with its simultaneous confusion of chaos, noise, disorder, of light separated in a rainbow. We are gathered here to proclaim the birth of a nucleus physical reality, where extragalactic rhythms are captured at a star formation rate. By the sensational shock and fever of its stellar continuum cycle, and in all its destructive interference within reality. Here lies the cross-faded apocalyptic line between Ublism and all other physical realistic trends. To herald the genesis of cosmic time, Ublism refuses the atomist attitude towards existence. It tears to fractions all those hard words like ethics, culture, humanism, good, evil, beginning, end, which are only covers for all rational people, those who drown in matter-of-fact swamps. The IQM 08279 plus 5455 method turns words into spirited forces. The letters of the word planet smashed and reshaped into globular clusters. Luddies invents current norms, invents fragile forms, aligning itself not to the symmetry of reason, but to possibilities that forms of expression live in all physical realities. Modernist architecture reconfigured into dance on stage. Botany explored for its sonic possibilities. It spreads cacophony, dissonance, atonality, and indeterminacy over all the continents. The world shows the intergalactic nature of a movement which is bound by no golden ratio of physical laws. Oubli is the inconceivably vast expression of our cosmic time, the great rebellion of revolutionary movements, the physical realistic reflection of all those many fictions, human struggles and clashes that surround us. Oubli demands the use of new materials in the reading of the world. Oubli is an organization which has been founded in London, which can dry without turbulence. Oubli is not a pretext to bolster up the pride of a few neo-thinkers as enemies will have the world believe. Oubli is a state. You are an oubliiste or you aren't, out of uncertainties. To be an oubliiste means being thrown with angular momentum by events, being against matter that settles to the bottom of the abyss. But it also means putting your life in a vacuum. One says yes to an existence that seeks to propagation. Down with atomist aesthetic ethical tendencies. Down with failed innovation. Down with the literary holocaust that nourishes for improving the material universe. Just wanted to finish my talk by just adding some extra information about this video. I wrote this text, which I narrate, together with Peter Lewis, the physicist from the Imperial College. And all my work has been made on a very low budget. And I'm very pleased to be here at the DIY Culture Festival, because I also feel that I'm part of a community, minority as well, because both my parents are from Southeast Asia. My mother is half African, and I have managed to do all this work throughout the years. I feel very fulfilled by this.
Okay, I've got a quick question for you before I open it up to the audience.
One, two, three.
I was just wondering, how do you feel science is important to your work, and when you include it, why are you including it? What does it mean to you as an artist?
I'm very interested in the magic that surrounds us. It can be very simple magic that are actually explainable through sciences. For example, a rainbow. The light that reflects onto this jug of water the beam of this projector, all those little things. I'm like a young girl, like very attracted by the things, and using sciences enables me to refer to those magics and to bring them back into my work.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Ilya Tan and about her work? Anything? There's one person over here with their hand up.
Hello. Okay. With the video we've just watched and with Udi's work, how important do you feel that work is to the understanding of the rest of your work? And what exactly do we have to forget with Udi's work?
Okay, so if I understand your question is how... I think I've not quite heard the beginning of your question. So.
How important do you think that is to the understanding of the rest of your work that we've also seen?
How Ublism is important to understand the rest of my work? It's a very good question because I think some of my work, I think I refer to very basic things, such as classical physics. So you saw the split of the light into rainbow colors. With a prism, for example, but I also tackle on a very abstract subject, which, to be honest, I don't necessarily understand. And the format which I use is not always straightforward. I mean, just being a contemporary artist, sometimes the language is a bit coded. So by